John, congratulations. What an oversubscribed private placement that First Phosphate just recently announced. Can you tell us why this was so successful?
Yeah, the private placement was done at $2 per share, and it was really started by a number of investors that we had that wanted to increment their position in the company. So we announced a $5 million raise, and we ended up raising 17.7. That's 17.7 million in a month in what was, generally a very bad market at the time. And so it just showed a lot of confidence by the investors in the company, and it also showed the strength of the company to be able to raise capital at those levels.
Of course, it probably didn't hurt that Prime Minister Carney referenced First Phosphate at the G7. Can you tell us a little bit more about maybe some of the outfall you've had from this?
Yeah, so at the G7, we were mentioned by Prime Minister Carney, and we were also put amongst 13 projects that were advanced into the G7 Alliance, the G7 Alliance on Critical Minerals. And we also announced offtakes on our apatite and also on our phosphoric acid. And also we announced investment commitments by the Danish credit agency and as well by three Italian state entities and a very large company, MAIRE Group, in Italy. So because of that, yeah, we were given great exposure at the G7, and now we're a project that's backed by the G7, and the G7 is looking for an outcome, is looking for an LFP battery supply chain across the G7 countries, and they see First Phosphate as the solution for that.
Okay, so First Phosphate, let's get an update. Where are we right now, and what milestones are we looking forward to hearing you achieve here in the next quarter?
Yeah, so First Phosphate, as of our last quarter, which was a year end, we had over $30 million in the bank. I think it was around 32 million. We did our last raise, last tranche of the raise, which was about 2.7 million. So that put us up to cash of about close to 35 million. We have access to the non-refundable contribution by the Canadian government of 16.7 million. So when you add all of that up, First Phosphate's got access to cash, non-dilutive at this point, at $50 million, $50 million to get down to its final investment decision. Before getting to final investment decision, we need to get to the feasibility study, which we're targeting for the end of this year, early 2027 at the latest. And then we're looking for permitting in 2027 as well, and getting to final investment decision by end of 2027. So we're covered. We're covered here for at least a good 24 months, if not more, in terms of capital. And that's really important in these junior markets, especially these junior markets, which are so fickle right now with everything going on the international front. So we're extremely well capitalized to get to our final investment decision here.
Well, and of course, I don't think we can call you a junior anymore. It's definitely you're crossing the bridge into the mid-cap
Yeah.
territory. For those of you out there who may be new to phosphate as a critical mineral, can you give us a little bit more of an understanding about what phosphate is and why investors should be looking at First Phosphate?
Yeah, so phosphate's extremely critical for agriculture, but increasingly for lithium iron phosphate, LFP batteries. LFP batteries are now about somewhere between 70 and 80% of all the batteries produced on planet Earth. And in those batteries, the cathode, that's the positive pole of the battery, basically over 60% of it is phosphate. And it's not just any phosphate, it's high purity phosphate. It's phosphate that's in its highest form of purification in terms of purified phosphoric acid. And so First Phosphate has the Bégin-Lamarche igneous phosphate project. That's one of the rarest phosphate rocks in the world. It represents only 1% of the world's phosphate reserves. And we've got access to that just at 70 kilometers from the deep sea port of Saguenay. And with that phosphate, about over 90% of it gets converted directly into purified phosphoric acid, which is the basis for these LFP batteries. So we're sitting in, at the best time with the best resource right now to be able to get that, get the onshoring of the LFP battery to start here in North America. We have we're right upstream. We're right where it counts. We're right by the resource.
Well, I mean, obviously you have capital now, but the growth challenges must be significant. How are you handling that, John?
Look, I found that that's actually the easier part. The harder part was to get access to the capital, raising the capital when we did. And now, we feel good. Right now, we can focus all of our energies on growth and development. We've got our entire internal and external team pretty much built to tackle the feasibility study and the next stages of permitting and final investment decision. So we're finding that that process is going really well. Now that we're capitalized and we don't have to start and stop like many companies have to do. It's also important when you are properly and fully capitalized, Tracy, suppliers look at you in different light, governments look at you in a different light, and also, off takers and investors look at you in a different light because now they know that you've got the wherewithal to be able to continue down the road with the project milestones. So it's going really, really well on an operational level.
Geopolitically, what elements are currently impacting First Phosphate most significantly?
Yeah, the thing that's impacting us the most is it looks like the truce between United States and Iran has broken in terms of the war starting up again there, and because of that, investors kind of look at the fact that oil prices are going up. That means inflation's going up. That means interest rates should go up, and if interest rates go up or don't go down for that matter, then it means that access to capital for the small and mid caps is going to be much more difficult, and so they're selling a lot of the small and mid cap stocks in the stock market. So we get caught up in that, but nothing could be further than the truth for us. We've got access to $50 million of capital to get through all of our projects. We got a 24 to 36 month runway here if we want without having to raise any further capital. So sometimes you get caught up in that narrative, but our narrative is actually perfect for that narrative, right? The narrative of all the problems in the rest of the world. There couldn't be a better igneous phosphate deposit for making a lot of purified phosphoric acid here in North America to give us energy independence than what First Phosphate has. So that narrative should actually be working in our favor, and it will, because once the dust settles here and we see what who are the companies that can actually move forward. First Phosphate's going to shine. We've got the $50 million of available capital. We're moving forward, and we're so well positioned. We're probably one of the best positioned small to mid cap companies out there in terms of being able to realize our mandate.
Offtake agreements. Speaking of shining, you've had a number of offtake agreements. What is your favorite offtake agreement at this very moment in time?
Well, our offtake agreement on the phosphate concentrate is definitive. It's bankable. There's been prepaid. There's been a prepayment made on it as well. So that is really significant in the fact that it is serious, and as soon as we're in production, it will be delivering on.
So, for those of you out there new to First Phosphate, you're going to love the milestones achieved and the timeliness. Usually, I ask people what we should anticipate in the upcoming quarter, but with you, what should we look forward to in the next, I don't know, 60 days?
Well, over the next 60 days, I think it's really important that the investor focus on the fact that First Phosphate is fully capitalized here. We're fully capitalized to get the final investment decision for the next 24 months at a minimum here. So basically, you're going to just find execution. We're just heads down and we're just executing. We're executing on our feasibility study. We're hoping to get that out by the end of this year, early next year at the very latest. And I think those are the milestones to look for that are sort of like in the ground milestones. After that, it's permitting in 2027. But in the meantime, let's look to see governments. Let's look to see what happens in the market. We're so well positioned. We're one of the only companies out there in igneous phosphate, and specifically for the LFP battery industry. So only good things can happen. So I can't give any more, but we're just working hard, heads down, and we're making it happen here with the significant resources that we already have in the treasury.
Okay, and knowing you and your team, you're undoubtedly working at several objectives simultaneously. So let me understand this properly. Feasibility study should be done, say Q1 2027. Is that where
Yeah,
we're
at the very
at?
latest. At the very
Okay.
latest.
And the infrastructure as well to start moving everything forward with permitting, et cetera. I'm certain you're on top of that as well. Can you give us an update?
Yeah, so that all happens just after the feasibility study. So we're moving forward on a lot of that already. The community relations, setting up for the Quebec BAPE process. We started with community relations since the very beginning of the company, which makes all of that a lot easier. So we're moving on multiple threads, and the reason we want to move on multiple threads is we want to go quicker. You don't want to do one thing, stop, do another, stop, do another. We're kind of moving a lot of things in tandem. So yeah, you should see like basically, quicker sort of breaks between milestones, just because we are moving various milestones at the same time simultaneously. I'm of the big belief, Tracy, that these critical minerals are so badly needed out there that the quicker that these projects can come to market, the more they will be worth. And we want to establish ourselves as the leader, at least in igneous phosphate for LFP battery industry.
Well, congratulations to you, John, and the team at First Phosphate. For everybody interested in finding out more and staying up to date on what's happening with First Phosphate, please go to the following website. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tracy.